Marty, Michael, with economic uncertainty, the rise of AI, and our clients really tightening their budgets, it's an incredibly difficult time for a staffing owner. Based on your seat and what you're seeing in your space, what are those 1 to 2 trends that the small to mid-sized staffing firm might be ignoring that they shouldn't be?
Sure, I'll go first, Brett. Thanks for having us on. Look, I think the first thing is try to understand what is this cycle that we're in, right? This gray cloud has been over our industry for 2+ years. Certainly when it started, the unanimous opinion was that this was just cyclical, right? We had some normal economic drivers, we had high interest rates, we had high inflation, and so normal opinion, as we were in this the first year and a half, is just normal economic cyclical issue that we're having. But now, I'm going to be, I'm a lawyer, close to a mortician, so kind of the same thing. I'm going to play devil's advocate to that, and I'm going to say, hey, maybe this isn't an economic cycle. Maybe this is something that's structural, and I'm going to try and lay out, why it could be structural. One, and folks who've heard ASA's economists have heard him say this, for the first time in our history of our industry, at least recent history, we've seen a divorce between employment trends and our industry, right? They've always been side by side, right? And for the first time, we have a divorce. Employment is strong. Our industry is not strong. So a normal economic indicator, not there. And now, we've been talking about technology change to our industry. God, I've been in the industry 15 years. We've been talking about it for 10 years. Now it's actually here, right? And that's the big difference. We're not just talking about it. Robotics is here. AI is here. I think there's been 2.2 million robotic pieces inserted into manufacturing. I listened to Microsoft's CIO the other day, and he said 30% of their code is now written by AI, not by people. Yeah. And certainly there's arguments that there's jobs replacing that are needed because of this. But the reality is more jobs being eliminated than needed. And then you have AI and the impact of our industry, and we can talk about that. And there's a lot of people who are a lot smarter than me who can talk about what AI is going to have, but there's clearly an AI impact in our industry. So I think first thing people need to be thinking about is structurally, where are we, right? What does this mean to their firm? And I always start with something when I'm talking to folks, because I'm there at the end, right? My specialty is mergers and acquisitions. So I'm helping people usually sell their company or buy somebody else's company. But what I always say to folks is, you got to begin with the end in mind, right? So right now, you got to understand where our industry is, what makes you valuable in the industry, and you got to figure out how you're getting there. That's my, advice at the top here.
Before I push back on that, Michael, what trends are you seeing?
Yeah, it's, and again, Brett, thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure. And I said earlier, I've been watching your, it'd be great. So hopefully we can add some value. So expand on what Marty said. As the accountant, we're in the weeds. We get to see what's happening, and we get a front row view. And we saw the downturn at the too. And that is, it's interesting to follow the trends, and the data doesn't lie. What we're seeing, and this has been I would say the mantra for the last 2 years, it's people, process, and technology. And right now, I think a lot of the smaller staffing firms are realizing the technology side. We have to get on board on the technology. And I think the hard part is, what technology do we use? What do we take advantage of? And that's probably the number one question I get is, what are your clients using from a technology side? So 2024 was a rough year, especially certain sectors. Light industrial was hit particularly hard, some down as high as 30%. What are you doing to reverse the trend? And from my world, it's all about the data. I think a lot of the business owners are not looking at the financial data. So one of the trends we saw last year is, as you saw pushback on bill rates. So you saw margin shrink and overhead just continue to grow. So it's extremely important that all the business owners are leveraging the technology and the data, so they can help navigate that business. And what Marty said earlier is your business does two things. It creates income, but you also want it to create wealth, right? So how do you create that wealth? And Marty's 100% right. If you're going the opposite way as the trend, so if light industrial is down on average 15% and you're up 5%, that's tremendous. What did you do? How did you get there? What is that business owner doing differently? And I'll just leave with this with business owners. You can't react anymore. They have to be proactive on what's happening in the business with the trends. And you said earlier, Brad, a 1% increase in revenues is basically a decline in earnings, right? So your costs are going up. So we have to be more efficiently, and we have to look to the future. What are we doing, looking forward to the business to adjust to, like Marty said, is this a fundamental change in the industry or is it not?
Michael, I couldn't agree more. I think when we look at the staffing industry, we have a tendency to be reactive, and it's just a byproduct of the industry. We get an order, we react to the order. We don't get orders, we react to that. We have to go sell more, right? Or we have an order, we don't get enough candidates, we react to that. We post a job listing, we go get more applications. It's a very reactionary industry. How do you propose staffing owners become more proactive instead of reactive?
Well, it's understanding your financials, your data, what is actually happening, looking at your top customers, looking at headcount, looking at margins, looking at your weekly billings. It's all of that information, and working with CFOs, you have an abundance of information. What information do you capture? What is important to you as the business owner? And I'll say one more thing. Our most successful staffing clients, the business owners have surrounded themselves with the right people. It's the team. It's having the operations person. It's having the internal VP who will oversee the financial operations. So when you're the business owner doing everything, it's very hard to be proactive. A client of mine said it best. It's like a horse race. At 6 a.m., the bell goes off. I'm reacting to customers, to vendors, to employees, to family members. And next thing you know, it's 6 o'clock at night, the bell goes off and I got to repeat tomorrow. So having that team, especially as you grow, 21, 22, 23, in some ways was easy. You were just order takers. You didn't have to do anything. The business was coming to you. So a lot of our clients are investing in sales and recruiting, bringing in third parties to kind of re-educate. How do you go back? How do you look at tomorrow on how you sell? I don't know if it was your show or someone else mentioned you may need 70 touches. It was an amazing number before you have a sale. So what data, what technology can we use to speed that up?
Hey, it's Brad taking a short break to tell you about my friends over at Tricom. What if your back office fueled your growth instead of holding it back? Tricom makes it happen. From payroll and billing to accounting and asset-based lending, Tricom clears the roadblocks, empowers your path forward. Your team gets paid, your cash flow stays steady, and your business scales like never before. Tricom doesn't just support you, they set you up to soar. To learn more about my friends over at Tricom, visit tricom.com. That's TRICOM.com. All right, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, and if you're new to the show and you haven't heard that stat, what we were doing is Brad Smith was at a recent conference and he had heard it take 70 touches. And that was from a CMO of a staffing firm going through their data and seeing that it takes 70 touches, not to land the order, just to land the initial conversation. The landscape is so noisy right now. We have so many options as buyers of t-shirts, of staffing services, whatever it might be. We need to have that repetition and that consistency. And Michael, you had mentioned that, that 6 to 6, you feel like you're just putting out flyers all day. I have this running sort of conversation with my wife of whether or not my day was busy or productive. I like to have productive days. I don't want to have busy days. Marty, when you think about what the best staffing firms are doing differently, or the best recruiting firms are doing differently, how do you propose they are proactive instead of reactive to what's going on around them?
I like to talk about it when I see folks successfully navigate from startup to exit. the founder goes through what I call 3 phases, right? When you found a company, the company is always what I call founder dominant, right? And what does that mean? It means the founder in many ways dominates the firm, usually from a sales perspective or a recruiting perspective, from a personality perspective, from a culture perspective. Right? When a firm is founded, you're founder dominant, right? So you got to figure out as a founder how to move through these phases. And that phase is where you're going to start. The next phase is what I call founder led, right? And that's a transition, right? Because you're going from the dominant figure and you want to become more of a CEO. And a CEO is putting in policies, infrastructure, people, teams, right? So they're suddenly leading the company versus dominating the company, right? And then the hardest stage is to go what's called founder inspired, right? Founder inspired is now you're just the inspiration for the company. You're looking at the future. You're seeing where we need to go. You're like a chairman of the board or a chief vision officer, right? So those are the 3 phases. So if you want to get out of the 6 a.m., I wake up and I'm taking orders, right? You got to progress through those 3 phases, in my opinion. And you got to get the people, the processes, the practices in place so that you can do that.
From your experience, what's harder? Is it finding the people to enable an owner to do that? Or is it the owner getting out of their own way and enabling themselves to do that?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I think most of the time, honestly, it's the owner gets in their own way, right? I mean, I'm an owner. I'm constantly getting in my own way with respect to my firm, right? If I could get out of my own way, my firm would be at a different place than where it is today. So I think we unknowingly get in our own way. It's not easy to get people, but if you put the right processes, systems, if you know what you're looking for, if you're building the right culture, you can get the people. Not easy, but you can do it.
Michael, anything to add there?
It is very difficult for owners to give up control. That is the hardest part. Give up control and trusting their people. And as an owner, you have to have a certain leash where mistakes may be made and to learn from them. But you cannot grow as an organization without having the right people. You can only hold so much, right? This is as far as I can grow if I'm going to remain that control freak. And when we look at our best clients, our clients who have grown consistently, who are bucking the trends, they have the right team in place, and the owner is the vision maker. He is what sees. That's what got them to where they are. So you have to have the right people in place in order to grow.
I think that's Tim Ferriss in the 40-hour work week. And his organization, he set it up so that every tier had an amount that they could essentially mess up, right? And I won't get the numbers exactly right, but at one tier, you could have a $1 mistake. At this tier, you can have a $10 mistake that impacted the organization. At this tier, maybe it's a $100 mistake, right? And at this tier, it's a $1,000 mistake. But you have to enable people the ability to run on their own, maybe fumble at a few times, but learn from those mistakes and grow. And I'm not an owner, right? I work at Haley Marketing. I don't own the organization, but I certainly understand how hard it could be to relinquish those accountabilities and those responsibilities. And I have nothing but respect for owners who find a way to do so, especially if you're putting in that 6 to 6 for years. And it is a second child, so to say, right? As an organization.
Yeah, and there's so much data. There's so many organizations that can assist a business owner. Marty and I, we travel to conventions all year long. There's no reason why a business owner can hide behind, I don't have the time or the ability. It's at your fingertips. So also working with the right professionals, having the right professionals within your industry. Marty and I don't have all the answers, but we have great clients that we can make introductions to say, hey, this is what our staffing client is dealing with, this software, this AI. So there is a great culture within the industry of helping each other. So it's having the right resources. And I would also say bring youth in, the youth with technology. What can they add to the processes? How do they make things better? And I think it's all about being engaged, Brad. And I think You have to be more engaged than ever as a business owner within your organization.
Let's stay on that way for a second. So I just had Kendra Cato on the show from Advanced Partners, and we talked about how strategic partnerships can become growth engines, not necessarily just nice to haves. In your mind, when should a staffing owner start to think about creating strategic partnerships with outside vendors or outside partners?
Well, from the beginning, right? I mean, you want to get folks in at the very beginning who can really help you fill in gaps, who understand the industry. But let's face it, that's not what happens, right? Because when you found a company, you've got your set of relationships and you're going to lean on those relationships. So, you're going to want to be searching all the time. I mean, we as a firm are bringing in new partners all the time. I think we don't do a lot, right? But I think we do really well in terms of finding new partners along the way. So you just got to be constantly looking at it and finding out who can help you. And sometimes it's one partner for one issue, but there's somebody else who can help them with some other issue. So I know clients will ask me, Marty, well, you do X, Y, and Z for us, but I really need A, right? Can you help me with A? And I might say, no, I can't help you with A. But you know what? I know somebody else in the industry who's really good at A, better than me at it. Go see them, right? So it's really just being willing to look for value with your partners and where they can bring value and following that value.
I think it's difficult, right? So the industry is down. I had Mike Cleland on the show and we talked about how the industry's been down for 3 years, at least going on maybe even more than that. And Barry Asen recently called it the year of stabilization. And in my mind, when times are tough, when money is not coming in as it should or as it used to, the first thing that an owner might think of is, well, what can I cut? What partner can I cut? Or where can I cut additional spending? And a lot of that is going to come through partnerships, not necessarily internal headcount, right? It's a lot easier to cut a vendor, I'll say that word specifically, than a partner, than it is to cut somebody who's on your internal payroll. Speak to the fact of why you should continue those partnerships when times are tough instead of seeing that as the first expense to go.
I'll add this, Brad. When the times are tough, information is power, right? So when you're working with vendors that are specific to the industry, they can share the insight from what their clients are doing to buck the trends. What are they doing to stabilize the ship? And that's powerful. And it's not necessarily us, providing billable time, right? You said everyone's worried about their expenses. It's what knowledge can I share? There's a lot of value in that. I think business owners tend to be fearful with professionals. Oh, if I call XYZ, they're going to, send me a bill. Instead, I think most professionals, we invest in our clients. We invest in you, right? And we want you to be successful. So if I can share what other clients are doing that are successful, the beauty of what we do, we have 2 business owners that do the exact same thing, very similar customer base, and you can see wildly different profits. And it's all based on how do you manage your business? How do you manage your people? What are the policies and procedures you have in place? And we can share some of that insight, especially in down times. What do you do to reverse the trend or at least stabilize so we can worry about cash flow? What analysis can we do to help you? How can we support your internal financial operations right now on reporting you're not getting? And there's a lot of technology out there, Brad, that can help CFOs and business owners to come. We're full of data. I was at a conference with CFOs and a lot of CFOs are saying, we're just inundated with data. How do I get a dashboard? Well, guess what? Yeah. There's technology out there that can do that for you. So that's where your industry specific professionals. And I had one more thing at these conventions, you can get a lot of free information from your industry partners, who would love to share with you their insights on what they can do. Take advantage of that. A lot of business owners at these conventions don't want to speak to vendors because they're like, oh, I don't want to be bothered. Use it as an opportunity. Ask them what's going on from insurance. We do a lot of light industrial. So what can you do to reduce workers' comp? Well, here's what our clients are doing. Safety protocol, all of this fun stuff. Let me introduce you to someone who specializes in that. So where's your pain point? And that's what we help. How do we address your pain points? We're doctors, right? Triage, and then we provide a solution, a pill, hopefully, or is it not a pill? Is it a brain surgeon that you need to get you where you're going?
And I think what's different there is at that level, you're a trusted advisor, right? You're not necessarily a vendor. You're not necessarily a partner. You're a trusted advisor. And that's a lesson I learned from Tom Erb probably 2 years ago at this point, where he sort of power ranked this hierarchy of how you can be perceived in the industry. And when you're a trusted advisor, people come to you with questions. They don't come to you because they have, a necessary evil. I have to use a staffing firm because I've tried to hire for 6 months. I can't do it myself. I guess I'll call Brad Staffing Firm. They're my trusted advisor. They're my trusted partner at this point. Here's the challenge I'm having. Figure out where the actual pain is and let's get it right. Let's fix it. And I think if you have that, then you absolutely have a relationship that makes a ton of sense that can scale your business and grow it exponentially. Guys, I want to talk about, because I know you work with hundreds of staffing firms and recruiting firms and executive search firms, I want to talk about how to set a competitive advantage within the organization. Right now, it's incredibly hard to sell staffing services. And I think for the most part, it's because we're seen as a commoditized industry. We don't necessarily know what makes us different, what makes us unique. And when we go to sell or we go to pitch our services to a candidate, we're all sort of saying the same things. So from your standpoint, and Marty, I'll start with you, what is a competitive advantage for a staffing firm, and how do the best staffing firms showcase that competitive advantage?
So I think you gave the answer, right? Most of the firms that to me I've seen have a competitive advantage have become trusted advisors to their clients, right? And they have a specialization to what their services, right? And what do I mean by that? So over the last 3-4 years on the sales side, the folks that have exited with the most success are usually in some sort of niche, right? They know that niche. They know the workforce in that niche. They understand the skills that are required of that workforce so they can differentiate quickly between skill sets as to make sure that their client is getting the right skill set. So, and they become that trusted advisor for the client, because that client can have a conversation with them about what that workforce looks like today, what it may look like a year from now, 2 years from now. So the folks that I see have become and carved out a real niche in what they do, and they become a real part of their client's success by having specialized knowledge in that niche.
Michael, same question. Let's kick it your way.
Absolutely. It's what are you really good at? What separates you? Just at a convention, and one of the speakers said it best. What differentiates yourself from the competition, right? What are you doing different? Don't try to be everything to everyone. And then the other side is don't be an order taker. And we've seen staffing firms that have gone out of their way to be more on the consultant side, help your customers identify the problem, right? What is it that you're providing to solve the solution to make your client's life easier and better? And that focus, and I can't agree with Marty more on the niche side, but it's also processes and people. The highest value companies, it's basically a plug and play. I can plug in a new team. You already have the processes in place. You already have the people in place. That's where the value is.
Hey, it's Brad taking a short break to tell you about an offer exclusive to listeners of Take the Stage. 30 minutes of strategic marketing consultation with me, completely free. Hey, whether you're looking to drive more sales or more job applications, I want to help. Visit bit.ly/stage offer. Pick a time that works best for you. That's it. Again, whether you want to drive more applications or more job orders, I want to help. That's bit.ly/stage offer. All right, let's get back to the show.
I think the biggest challenge with staffing firms right now is when business is so difficult to come by, maybe the obvious but not so obvious solution is, well, let's change verticals, right? We're not getting the orders that we should be getting in LI, so let's try drastic extreme, but healthcare. We're not getting the healthcare orders that we need, so let's try, again, drastic extreme LI, where we think there might be orders. Are you both saying that that is the wrong approach to take?
Yes, you have to have the right people. If you're an LI and you're thinking of doing healthcare, it is a extremely difficult process. Like right now, Brad, the two industries we're seeing that are doing very well are locum and skilled trades. Okay. Locum is not easy to break into. It takes time to credential. But you're seeing a lot of firms move into locum. Skilled trades has been on a tear, which a lot of light industrial firms are looking to get into, which is probably an easier transition to go to skilled trades than it is. But it's a specialty, and you have to, again, bring on the right people, the right recruiters, the right team to manage that. And if you're just, typically we see owners who jump in, they don't plan. And it's all about cash flow, right? How much are you spending on people, personnel, technology? And when you getting a return on that? So there has to be some analysis, some thought behind it.
How much should an owner spend on people, process, and technology? Is there a percentage on that?
That's a great question. We don't have a percentage, but you should look at the return on your investments, and every company is different. But again, that's data that companies have that they need to look at.
I think it's always interesting from a marketing standpoint. The industry as a whole stereotypically has a very tight pocket as it relates to marketing. We've seen the staffing industry has historically always had tight pockets as it relates to marketing. And I, of course, being the marketing guy, will always say, well, if you spend more, you might have the opportunity to make more, right? And yes, I can articulate that a little bit better on the right call. But I understand where it comes down to percentages. It comes down to having money that has to go in different areas. I totally get it. When we think about establishing a competitive advantage, now we understand that it's having a proper niche. It's knowing what you do and what you truly excel at. Why don't more staffing firms showcase their competitive advantages? Is it that they, one, can't find them? Two, they can't articulate it? Three, maybe they just don't have one. Maybe they don't have a better process. Maybe they don't have better people, whatever it might be. Why do we have a commoditized industry if businesses are presumably doing pretty well?
I think it depends on the sector, first of all. Certain sectors lend themselves more to being a little bit more commoditized than other sectors. And the differentiator is skill levels required of the people within that sector. So light industrial, there is some differentiation in skill level, but it's a smaller differentiation. Then you get up to locums or something like that, and the skill differentiation is it a wide gap, right? So I think that's part of it. But going back to your core question, I think it's all three of those. I think that people get stuck in that kind of founder dominant space, right? Where they're taking orders and they're doing what they know, and they don't really ever step back to articulate, well, what am I doing differently than somebody else? And so I think that's one problem that folks have. I think two, then they do. I think sometimes folks have a hard time articulating. They may have a differentiation, but they don't spend the time with folks like you, right? Helping articulate that. I mean, one thing that Becker did great is we actually worked with Haley Marketing to help us better articulate why we are such industry experts to the staffing industry, right? So there's not developing it, then there's developing it, but not articulating it effectively. I think those are the two biggest problems that folks have in terms of, really bringing it from A to Z in terms of having a real competitive advantage and being able to articulate that and sell it in a marketplace.
And I'll add, Brad.
Yeah, please.
I was going to add real quick. We were at a convention last week, and we keep talking about technology, but the messaging still comes from us. And you ask what differentiates, right? So I think you have to look at all this technology, embrace it, use it, but the old-fashioned communication, phone call, allows you to expand and provide that differentiation. And it was a great conversation we had because you had different age groups at the convention. So the old guys like myself and Marty, no offense, we grew up, you sold it on the phone, you had the conversation, you had the ability to listen and respond to the questions you were getting. And it was a great conversation amongst the business owners on, the picking up the phone and having the ability to have that conversation. Here's what we do different. Here's why.
I think technology can tee up more conversations. I think in some instances and even in some industries, technology can close the conversation, can close the order. But where I'm at with AI and this whole technology shift and where we're at as an industry is we're still an industry of putting great people to work and great opportunities. And while AI and technology and some of the new tools that we have at our disposal might be able to fuel more conversations for us, we still got to be able to close. We still got to be able to have good conversations with prospects, with clients. We still need to be able to have good conversations with candidates. We need to be seen as a career coach, a career mentor. We need to be seen as that trusted advisor on the sales side of things so that our clients trust us and know to come to us instead of another local competitor. And at the end of the day, yes, technology, AI, all of that can help with the messaging, can help with the funnel. But at the end of the day, we need to have the conversation and our team needs to be able to have that conversation. And that's CEO to somebody who just started 6 hours ago. We all need to be able to have that and articulate that conversation. Before I let you go ahead, please.
I mean, just real quick, I couldn't agree more. AI today could bring efficiency, but AI is not capable, let's say I keep talking about discerning skill differentiation between your candidate pool, right? And being able to articulate that, making sure that you can grab the right candidate, that you can coach the right candidate, that you can guide your client on selecting the right candidate for skill differentiated jobs. So 100% correct. It's a tool of efficiency. It doesn't help us differentiate. It doesn't help us drive home what our real advantage is over other firms in the industry.
But where you're at there, though, too, is that's a trusted advisor. That's a partner, right? Being able to have a candidate and work with them to get them to the next stage of their career or work with a client and figure out their true hiring challenges. That's not an order taker. That's a trusted advisor. And I think you're exactly right. Yeah, AI might be able to do some of that low level, necessary evil type work. But if we want to have a true partnership and be a true trusted advisor, then that's where the human element comes into play. I couldn't agree with you more. While I got both of you, one question that's on my mind, just knowing the space that you're in, that I think a lot of people listening right now would like your feedback on, complete 180 from the conversation we're having, but it's something that's on my mind. Is now a good time to sell a staffing firm?
Look, I think it's really hard to time the market. I mean, folks who try and time the market, very difficult. I think that right now, you don't have many sellers in the marketplace, right? So that would tell you that the conventional wisdom of sellers is that now is not the time to be in the marketplace. So I would say that is mostly true. However, there are still a whole heck of a lot of buyers in the marketplace. So if you're a firm that has really differentiated itself, has really created a competitive advantage, there are some firms that are going to market today and they're having a real bidding war over them because they are superstars, right? And there's not a lot of sellers in there. So for 9 out of 10 firms, maybe not a good time. Maybe not a good time. For those that are superstars, it is probably a good time because you're going to get a really good appetite out there for buyers. But again, for people who are waiting, like, all right, is next year the good year for staffing? Is the year after that the good year for staffing? We don't know, right? So it's really make your decision based upon your own needs and what you're trying to accomplish and when you're trying to accomplish it. But that's when you make your decision.
I'm going to agree with Marty. Is it the best time? More likely than not, no. Because there is a shortage of sellers, if you are a shining star in your industry, there is opportunity. And a lot of our business owners, especially older business owners, are tired. And they want to remove the risk. I mean, that's their thought process is with everything going on in the industry, is it a temporary change? Is it a permanent change? We have some sellers that just say, Michael, I just want to remove the risk. But I think you always have to look at how do you add the value, because the due diligence process is much different than it was 2 years ago. There's a lot more attention spent on tomorrow. Where are you going? What have you invested? What people do you have? What resources do you have? Which goes full circle to what are you doing to prepare your business to increase value? So probably not the best time, but there is a lot of buyers out there, so you never know.
Guys, before I let you go, I want to give you both the floor to share a little bit about yourself and the company. Michael, since you were just speaking, I'll give you the opportunity first.
Well, Brad, thank you. This was great. I'm a partner at Citrin Cooperman. We are accountants and advisors to the staffing industry. We work with over 200 staffing firms, and I love my staffing clients. They're sales motivated, big personalities, and we really enjoy working with them and watching their success, but also helping them grow. What can we do to help you get to where you're going? So I want to thank you again. This was great.
Had fun. Marty, go for it.
Sure, Brad. So I run the staffing practice group at Becker. Similar to Citrin, we're one of the dominant law firms in the industry. We work with over 100 staffing firms a year. Got a large group of folks that work with. 10 people in the group. We all have a little bit different skill set. Mine is more on the strategic side, but some of the other folks in the department are more on the operational side, the employment compliance, the contracts, things of that nature. And, we've been focused in the industry for 15 years and same reasons for Mike. It's really a people industry. And we love that about the industry. The people are almost invariably great people and enjoyable to work with.
Do you want to land more clients and close more deals in 2025? Haley Marketing is offering big savings to help staffing firms like yours grow. Get $1,000 off targeted marketing campaigns, free tools to track your hottest leads, and no setup fees on services that help your company get found online. Plus, we'll even help you stay in touch with prospects for free. But you need to act fast. These deals end June 30th. You visit bit.ly/Bialy offer to find out more information. Again, that's bit.ly/Bialy offer for more information. All right, let's get back to the show.
2 questions for both of you before I let you go. I got to send you through our rapid fire round. Marty, I'll start with you and then we'll kick it to Michael. Marty, one book that has fundamentally changed your life.
One book that has fundamentally changed my life. It's an old book. It's an old book by Stephen Covey, Dr. Stephen Covey. It's the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And I read it about a decade ago. Unfortunately, I've only been able to adapt a few of those habits. I wish I could adapt all 7, but the few habits that I've adapted have certainly helped me, and I just thought it was a great book.
One piece of advice you would give to somebody just starting in staffing and recruiting?
It's a great industry, right? There's a lot of opportunity. It's one of the few industry spaces where you need assets today a little bit more than you did before in terms of technology. So there is a little bit of capital needed, but it's really a professional services business. So if you like people, if you can really have a passion for what you do, if you can show that passion to your clients and your employees, it's a great industry to be in.
We'll run you through the rapid fire round. One book that has fundamentally changed your life.
So the author I really like, Jim Collins, Good to Great, Built to Last, The Mighty Have Fall. It's great. I love seeing businesses side by side, what made one business great and another that didn't do quite as well. So it's a great series of books. And I'll say this for advice. A lot of recruiters are great recruiters and they start their own business. And when you go from recruiting to a business owner, it's a total different mindset. Recruiting, you're in your own silo. You worry about one thing, and that's selling. When you start a business, it's a whole different mindset. You have to know so much more: gross margin, markup, costs, cash flow. So anyone thinking of going into business, educate yourself. Talk to the right professionals on what you need to succeed. And as a client told me 25 years ago, everything starts with a sale. So all the planning in the world, if you can't sell, everything else is meaningless.
Guys, can't thank you enough for coming on this episode to take the stage and sharing all your insights with us. It was a fantastic conversation. We danced around a lot of different topics. I appreciate your time and I appreciate you joining me on this episode.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, Brad.